A lot of you keep asking me for new games to play, something different from the usual stuff. So this list is for you. These aren't perfect games, they're not all 10 out of 10 masterpieces, but they're still absolutely worth playing. Chances are you missed a few of these. American Arcadia. American Arcadia is one of those games that feels like a hidden gem you just randomly stumble into, but once you're in, you're like, wait, why aren't more people talking about this? So here's the deal. It's kind of like if the Truman Show met Inside with a little bit of Papers, Please sprinkled in. You play as this regular guy named Trevor who lives in this 70s style city where everything seems chill on the surface, but turns out he's actually being watched 24/7 on a live TV show without even knowing it. Like straight up reality TV, but creepy. And yeah, when he finds out, he tries to escape. The cool part is that the game doesn't just stick to one style. Half the time you're playing as Trevor, doing classic side-scrolling platformer stuff, running, climbing, hiding, dodging, security, kind of like Limbo or Inside, but the other half you play as Angela, this hacker girl trying to help him escape from behind the scenes. And when you're her, it switches to a full 3D first-person view where you're solving puzzles, messing with computers, unlocking doors, stuff like that. It flips back and forth and keeps things fresh the whole way through.
Yes, I got it!
The whole vibe is really slick. It's got that retro futuristic look, bright colors, old school tech, weirdly clean buildings. The city looks cool, but once you realize it's basically one big lie, everything starts feeling off in a good way. Kinda like you're in this fake perfect world with something wrong under the surface. American Arcadia is short and sweet, no bloat, just a cool idea done right. It's one of those games where you get pulled in by the mystery, stay for the characters, and by the end you're like, yeah, that was dope. If you're into story games with a little action and some sneaky puzzle stuff, don't sleep on this one.
On the run on camera 4025. Interrupt broadcast immediately.
Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush is this super energetic action game that mixes beat-based combat with hack-and-slash mechanics. You play as Chai, a regular guy who volunteers for this experiment that goes wrong, and as a result, he ends up with a cybernetic arm and this music player fused into his chest. That's the core gimmick. Everything in the game moves to the music. Your attacks, dodges, and combos literally sync to the beat. So timing isn't just cosmetic, it actually makes combat flow better. The story is mostly a fun, over-the-top setup. Chai is this sarcastic, kinda lazy guy who suddenly has to fight a bunch of corporate goons, crazy bosses, and the odd robot or two. It's not dark or emotional. It's loud, colorful, and full of personality. The writing is funny, the dialogue is full of jokes, and Chai reacts to situations in a very human way, which is nice because it makes you feel connected to him even though the story itself isn't super deep. Gameplay is where this game really shines. You can mash buttons and survive, but if you start syncing attacks to the rhythm, the combos flow naturally. You chain hits better, and boss fights feel satisfying instead of chaotic. You also get help from different partners during fights, each with unique abilities, which adds another layer of strategy. Switching between Chai and your partners feels smooth, and the bosses are designed so you actually have to pay attention, react, and sometimes even move around the arena to hit weak points on beat. Visually, the game is ridiculous in the best way. Neon colors, exaggerated character designs, crazy effects when you land combos, it all pops and matches the music perfectly. The environments are industrial but lively, and there's a lot of small details if you pay attention, like robots doing random tasks, hazards you can knock into enemies, or little visual cues that help you time attacks. It's not massive or open world, but it doesn't need to be. Everything is designed to support the rhythm combat, and that works really well. The music system is actually clever. It feels natural and rewarding rather than gimmicky. Hitting the beats gives you rhythm points which can improve your attacks or fill your meter for special moves. It's satisfying when you start seeing combos build up and the music and combat start feeling like one thing instead of two separate systems. Bosses really push this system, forcing you to pay attention to timing and positioning while keeping the flow going. Ryse, Son of Rome. Son of Rome is this cinematic action game where you play as Marius Titus, a Roman soldier caught up in this huge story about family, honor, and war. It originally came out on Xbox One in 2013 and later on PC, and even though people mostly remember it for its graphics, there's more going on than just eye candy. The game is basically a third-person hack and slash with a lot of cinematic presentation. Think big battlefield, huge armies, and a ton of cinematic cutscenes mixed with the action. The story itself is kinda simple, but it works with the game's style. Marius starts as a young soldier, sees his family killed by barbarians, and sets out on this revenge path while also rising through the ranks of the Roman army. It's not subtle. Characters yell a lot, speeches happen all over the place, and the dialogue is very much epic Roman drama. But that's the vibe the game is going for, and I can't hate it for that. You feel like you're part of a story that's larger than you, even if some moments are a little over the top. Gameplay is mostly about combat, and it's a bit more tactical than it looks at first. You've got sword combos, shield blocks, executions, and some light strategy when facing groups of enemies. Timing matters, especially for parries and counters. The executions are a big part of the flow. They're flashy, and they give the combat this rhythm to it that makes fights feel satisfying instead of just mashing buttons. There are also some sections with the bow, but it's really secondary. One thing that stands out is the scale. The battles feel huge, with dozens of enemies on screen, soldiers charging, and the occasional elephant or siege machine thrown in. Even though the game nudges you along a linear path most of the time, it still gives this feeling of being in a massive war. The environment, Roman forts, and battlefields are detailed and atmospheric, which helps sell the epic scale. Visually, it's probably what people remember most. CryEngine does a lot here. The lighting, the blood effects, the armor reflections, even the crowd animations are all solid for its time. It's not perfect. Some faces and expressions look a bit stiff, but overall it's impressive and still holds up better than a lot of other games from 2013. The story pacing can feel a bit forced at times, especially with all the cutscenes, but it keeps the focus on Marius and his personal journey rather than trying to overload you with politics or history lessons. There's a clear sense of progression. You go from a young soldier to a general, and the game makes you feel that growth through combat and story moments. The Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us is this episodic adventure game that Telltale made back in 2013, and honestly, it still feels fresh if you like story-driven games. You play as Big B Wolf, yeah, the big bad wolf, but way older, grumpier, and now basically the sheriff of Fabletown, which is this hidden community of fairy tale characters living in New York. The whole vibe is dark, gritty, and noirish, like a detective story but with fairy tale characters. Snow, rain, dark alleys, it's moody, and the art style is comic booky, which really helps sell that vibe. The story is the heart of the game. Right away, you get pulled into a murder investigation, but it's not just about solving a crime. The people you're dealing with, Snow White, Bloody Mary, all these classic characters have personalities, agendas, and secrets. Some of them are nice, some are shady, some will straight up lie to you. Bigby isn't exactly a good guy. He's gruff, rough around the edges, and sometimes violent, which makes the dialogue and choices feel real. You're constantly thinking about who to trust, how to handle situations, and what kind of Bigby you actually want to be. Gameplay is mostly point-and-click adventure with dialogue choices and a few quick-time events during fights. It's not about combat skill, it's about decisions and pacing. Choices feel meaningful. Someone lives, a character gets scared off, or a story branch changes later, and it doesn't always spell out the consequences immediately, which is cool. Some people hate that there's not much traditional gameplay, but honestly, the way Telltale structures it makes you feel like you're part of a real story rather than just completing objectives.
This whole time! Listen to your wife.
The episodic format works here because it gives you time to think about your choices and reflect on the story. Each episode ends in a way that keeps you guessing, and sometimes you're left with morally gray situations where you don't really feel like there's a right answer. Bigby's personality plus the dialogue options make you feel like you're actively shaping who he is over time. Art-wise, the game nails it. The cel-shaded comic book style is perfect for the setting. It's not just pretty, it adds to the tone. Rain-soaked streets, smoky bars, dark offices, is, every scene feels like it's part of a bigger, lived-in world. The sound design and music also pull you in. It's subtle but effective, keeps the tension up, and complements the noir vibe. The Wolf Among Us is definitely niche. If you're expecting action or fast gameplay, this isn't it. But if you like stories, characters, and choice-driven drama, it's fantastic. Some of the side mysteries and conversations are surprisingly memorable, and even small characters feel real. It's messy, morally gray, and really invests you in this world of fairy tale people trying to survive in a harsh modern city.
He's had enough.
Imagine spending hundreds of hours in a survival game building the ultimate fortress with max level walls and turrets, only to log off and leave the front door completely open wide. You would never do that in-game because you know you'd get raided and lose everything instantly. But here's the thing, going online without a VPN is basically like leaving your real-life front door unlocked. You might not get robbed today, but you are definitely taking a massive unnecessary risk every single time you connect to the internet. The reality is that hackers don't usually bother trying to crack the people with max level security stats. They go after the easiest targets. If you're using public Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, hotel, or airport without protection, that easy target is you. Your data on those networks is often unencrypted, meaning anyone else on that network can potentially intercept your passwords, emails, and banking details. That's why I use ExpressVPN. Think of it as the ultimate defense buff for your real-life data. It protects your internet activity by hiding your real IP address and encrypting your entire connection through secure servers. I personally use it because it doesn't require a skill check to figure out. It is incredibly simple. You just open the app and tap one button. It works across all my devices, from my gaming PC to my phone and tablet, so I'm protected whether I'm working, gaming, or just scrolling. Stop acting like an NPC with zero defense stats. Use my link expressvpn.com/pixdragon to get 4 extra months of ExpressVPN, or scan the QR code on screen right now to get those 4 extra months and start browsing safely. Titanfall 2. But seriously, the one game that got completely messed up by a bad release date, it is this one. That's the most important thing to know about it. The company that made it, EA, decided to launch it right in between Battlefield 1 and the Call of Duty game, which were like the 2 biggest shooters that year. Everyone was busy playing those, and this amazing game just got totally overlooked when it came out. That's why it's on this list. But seriously, the single-player story in this game is way better than it has any right to be. You play as a guy named Jack Cooper, who's just a normal rifleman, but he gets stuck with this giant smart robot, a Titan named BT-7274. Titans are basically huge walking tanks that can talk. The whole game is built around the relationship between Jack and BT. It's like a buddy cop movie, but one of the cops is a 20-foot tall machine who takes everything you say super literally. Their dialogue is actually funny and gives the story a lot of heart, which you just don't expect from a big, fast-paced shooter. Now, the gameplay is what makes it a must-play. When you're running around as Jack, you're super fast. You can do all this cool parkour, like double jumping and sprinting across walls, and it feels incredibly smooth. It's like a completely different game from when you are inside BT. When you're in the Titan, the combat is heavy, loud, and powerful. You can switch between these 2 styles of play instantly, and the level design constantly makes you swap back and forth. You might have to jump out of BT, wall run across a giant gap, clear a small area of enemies, and then find a way to get back to your Titan. And listen up, there's one level in this game that is just legendary. It's called Effect and Cause. In this level, you get a special piece of gear that lets you time travel instantly between the past and the present. You are literally jumping back and forth to solve puzzles and fight enemies. One second you're fighting bad guys in a clean, working factory, and the next second you hit a button and you're in the same exact spot, but it's totally ruined, overgrown with plants, and full of different enemies. It's a totally clever mechanic that only lasts for that one section, and it shows how much effort they put into making the campaign feel fresh and different all the time. So forget the fact that it sold poorly at launch. The campaign is short, but every single minute is packed with cool ideas and amazing action. You just gotta experience that bond with BT for yourself. It's seriously a solid, well-made shooter.
I will not lose another pilot.
Plague Tale Requiem. A Plague Tale Requiem is a great example of a story-driven game that got overlooked because it came out at the same time as huge hits like God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring. Even though it didn't get as much attention, it's one of the most visually stunning and emotionally intense single-player games in recent years. The game is way more than its rat game nickname. It's an emotional roller coaster with a deeply personal story. You follow Amicia and her little brother Hugo, two kids surviving a terrifying medieval world. This time, the stakes are much bigger. What happens isn't just local, it affects the whole world. The story's darker, showing how the events of the first game have changed them. Amicia isn't just protecting Hugo anymore. She's traumatized, angry, and struggling to control her violent side. That inner struggle makes the story feel mature and real, showing how desperation can lead to harsh choices that even hurt the people you love. Gameplay has also gotten a big upgrade. The world is huge, from busy coastal towns to sunny ruins and lush islands, giving you more ways to sneak around or fight. Amicia now has a crossbow, a knife for close fights, and new alchemy tools like tar that can light up rats or burn enemies. You can play quietly and avoid killing, or go full-on violent. It's your choice. The game even subtly rewards how you play, improving your stealth skills if you sneak, or boosting combat if you fight. But the real showstopper is the rats. Watching huge waves of them pour through a city square or erupt from the ground is jaw-dropping and impossible to fully capture in videos or screenshots. Hugo's power, the Macula, is stronger too. He can sense enemies through walls with a new Echo ability, or in extreme moments, control the rat swarms to destroy everything in their path.
You need more rats! No!
Singularity. Singularity is this first-person shooter that came out in 2010, and honestly, it's one of those games people kind of forget even existed, which is a shame because it actually does some interesting stuff. You play as Captain Nathaniel Renko, a US soldier sent to this mysterious Russian island called Katorga 12, and the story immediately hits you with this mix of Cold War vibes, time experiments, and sci-fi twists. The island was the site of secret experiments with this substance called E99 that messes with time, and of course, things have gone horribly wrong. The thing that makes this game unique is the time manipulation. You get this device called the TMD, Temporal Manipulation Device, which lets you do stuff like aging or reverting objects and enemies. You can take a broken down bridge and make it whole again, or make a freshly repaired door crumble. Enemies, you can age them until they die instantly or revert their armor to make it weaker. It's a mechanic that's actually really fun once you start experimenting. You're not just shooting and running, you're thinking about how to use time itself to solve problems and survive fights. The combat is solid, typical shooter style, but the TMD gives it that extra layer of strategy. You still have guns, grenades, and melee, but mixing them with time powers makes fights more interesting. I've spent entire sections just playing around with objects, making barrels old, then blowing them up, or freezing a turret mid-fire. It's clever because it turns a standard FPS into something a bit more tactical and unpredictable. The story and setting are pretty solid too. Katorga 12 feels like a real creepy abandoned island, with labs, military bases, and weird experiments lying everywhere. There's this constant tension. It's eerie but not horror level scary. You get little notes and recordings that flesh out the backstory, and the characters feel more grounded than a lot of shooters from that time. Renko is a straightforward protagonist, but the island and its mysteries carry most of the weight, and that works because exploring is satisfying. The game also does a good job of pacing. You'll have intense combat sections, then slower moments to explore, use the TMD creatively, or figure out a puzzle. None of it drags too long, and the story keeps you curious about what's really going on with the time experiments. The bosses aren't huge in number, but the TMD gives them a unique twist, because you can't just gun them down. You have to use time in clever ways to survive. Visually, it's dated now, but back then, it was pretty solid. The environments are detailed and varied. Frozen labs, crumbling military bases, forests on the island, and the design really helps sell the time manipulation mechanics. Sound and music fit the tone too. Tense, moody, sci-fi tinged without ever feeling overbearing. Singularity doesn't try to reinvent shooters, but it takes the genre and adds one really strong, unique mechanic that keeps it interesting. It's not perfect, some guns feel generic, and the story isn't mind-blowing, but the time powers make it memorable, and the way you can manipulate objects and enemies adds replay value. It's a shooter shooter that rewards experimentation, and for anyone who likes a mix of action and clever mechanics, it's definitely worth checking out. Quantum Break. Quantum Break is one of those games that came out at the wrong time and got buried, even though it was doing way more interesting stuff than most big games around it. It dropped in 2016 when Xbox One was busy trying to be a TV box instead of a game console, so a lot of people just brushed it off without even trying it. But if you look at what Remedy did here, it's basically a mix of a full single-player action game and a live-action show that reacts to your choices, and not in a gimmicky way. You play as Jack Joyce, and the story kicks off with a time travel experiment at this tech facility. It goes bad instantly, and instead of the typical "you have slow-mo powers now" thing, the whole world starts to break apart. Time literally stutters, freezes, skips, and chunks of the environment just stop working normally. The game builds that into everything: combat, movement, level design, even cutscenes. The time powers are actually fun to use instead of feeling like a cheap superpower add-on. You can freeze a group of enemies and unload bullets into the bubble so it all hits at once, or dash across the map while everyone else is basically paused. There's a shield, a time blast, and this blink-style dodge that makes fun fights feel more about movement than hiding behind cover. It keeps combat from getting stale since you're not stuck doing the same two actions over and over. The live-action episodes are what made people ignore the game, but they're better than they sounded in trailers. Remedy filmed them with real actors from shows like Game of Thrones, The Wire, X-Men movies, and it isn't just random side story stuff. At the end of some chapters, you get these junction points where you pick how certain events go, and the TV episode that plays after changes based on that choice. It sounds weird until you actually play it, then it just feels like another way the story reacts to you. And even outside the time powers, the world looks and feels different. Buildings freeze mid-collapse, cars float in midair, objects rewind and glitch out, and the game doesn't just use that as background. You walk through it while it's happening. It gives the game its own identity. It's not a full open world, but each area feels like it has purpose, and the pacing doesn't waste your time with pointless filler. The reason it ended up underrated had nothing to do with quality. Xbox didn't know how to market it, people were already annoyed by the TV push, and it didn't get ported to other platforms at launch, so it got forgotten even though it plays great and still holds up visually and mechanically. If you like story-driven single-player games with actual production value, Quantum Break is one of those titles people skipped for no real reason. It's one of Remedy's most experimental games and easily deserves more eyes on it. House of Ashes. House of Ashes is one of those horror games that keeps things tense from start to finish without wasting your time. The whole story takes place in Iraq, where a squad of American soldiers and one Iraqi officer end up trapped underground after a mission goes wrong. They fall into these ancient ruins buried under the desert, and that's where everything starts going bad. The game isn't just about jump scares. It builds its tension around the characters being stuck in a place they don't understand. There are tunnels, tombs, old carvings, hidden chambers, and you never really feel safe. The more they explore, the more they realize something else is down there with them, and it's not human. That's when the survival side kicks in. Gameplay is cinematic with quick-time events, choices, and character moments. You switch between different characters as things get worse, and the way you respond decides who makes it out. There's no filler exploration. Every section pushes the story forward. The creatures you deal with aren't random ghosts or cheap horror monsters either. They feel physical and dangerous, and once you get a good look at them, the panic hits harder. The characters don't start off liking each other, but the situation forces them to work together. Some characters can actually build respect if you play it a certain way, and some can get killed off fast if you mess up. It keeps every scene tense, because one wrong move ends someone's story. Visually, the underground setting is the best part. It's dark, dusty, and tight, with just enough lighting to make you feel like something could jump out at any second. The sound design helps a lot too. Footsteps, echoes, and that creepy silence right before before something goes wrong. House of Ashes is one of the better horror choices if you want a game that's short and tense and story focused. It doesn't try too hard to be complicated. It's about being trapped in the dark with something hunting you, and that's enough to carry the whole experience. Life is Strange 2.
Things were different, but we can't go back.
Life is Strange 2 starts in a regular neighborhood with two brothers just living a normal life. Nothing supernatural, nothing crazy, just school, friends, and family stuff. Then something sudden happens in their area that forces them to leave home and hit the road with almost nothing. From that point on, the whole game becomes a journey across different parts of America. That setup alone makes it different from the first game, because you're always moving instead of being stuck in one town. The story isn't told through some chosen one angle. It's more about survival, trust, and how two brothers handle the world when they don't have a home to go back to. Daniel, the younger brother, is the one with powers this time, but you're not the one using them. You're Sean, the older brother, and your behavior decides how Daniel uses those powers later. That's a unique twist that most players didn't expect, because it's less about controlling abilities and more about shaping someone who has them. The game is underrated mainly because people expected Max and Chloe again, and when they realized it was a new cast with a more serious tone, they just dipped. But this one goes bigger with locations and situations. One episode you're in the woods trying to stay hidden, another you're around drifters and travelers, then you're in small towns, deserts, rural farms. It doesn't sit in one place too long. It feels like a road movie where you meet new people, make choices, and every area has its own problems.
Stop, Daniel. Bless you have.
Gameplay is still choice-based, but it has more weight because you're not just choosing for yourself. You're thinking about how your little brother sees you. Sometimes you have to decide if you're going to steal to survive or try to do things the right way, and Daniel remembers that. That changes how he reacts later, and it changes the ending. The game doesn't get enough credit for how it handles quiet moments too. Cooking, drawing, sitting by a fire, staying in broken down houses, working random jobs. It makes the whole trip feel real instead of staged. And because you're always on the move, the world feels bigger compared to most narrative games. Life is Strange 2 may not be as loud or meany as the first one, but if you actually give it a shot, it's one of the most grounded story games out there. It deserved more attention than it got.
Crush on me or something?
Got ya!
Daniel?
Leave me alone!
Do it, Daniel! Now!
Mafia Series. The Mafia series is one of those story-driven crime game collections that never gets enough credit. Each game drops you into a different era of organized crime in America, but the way it tells the story is what makes it stick. You're not just running around in a city doing random jobs. Every mission has weight, and the world feels alive around you. In the first game, you start as Tommy Angelo, a regular cab driver who somehow ends up working for the Salieri crime family. The gameplay mixes driving, shooting, and stealth in a way that's smooth and cinematic, and the city itself feels real. Streets, neighborhoods, nightclubs, and alleys all look like they could exist in the 1930s. Driving is a big part of it, and it's not just for show. Car chases feel tense, and handling the older cars actually takes some skill. Mafia 2 jumps forward to the 1940s and 50s, and you play as Vito Scaletta. This one leans harder into story and characters, showing how Vito climbs up the criminal world. The missions are structured like a movie. Some are quiet and tense, some explode into big shootouts. The city is full of detail. Diners, jazz clubs, neon signs, factories, snow-covered streets in winter. You also see how crime affects everyday life. Families, neighbors, even people on the street react to the mob differently. The driving and shooting mechanics feel tighter here, and it mixes in stealth and planning missions that keep things varied.
Started a fucking war.
Mafia 3 is a different beast. Set in New Bordeaux in the late 60s, inspired by New Orleans, you play as Lincoln Clay, a Vietnam vet trying to take revenge on the mob. The story is darker, and the city has its own personality with jazz, swamp areas, and a very real feeling of racial tension in the time period. Gameplay is more open world than the first two, but it still focuses on story and character interaction. You plan attacks on rival gangs, recruit allies, and see the consequences of your choices across the city. Across all 3 games, the series nails one thing: feeling like you're part of a living, breathing criminal world. You're not just completing objectives, you're living in a specific time and place with the fashion, cars, music, and slang to match. That kind of attention to detail, combined with cinematic storytelling and a mix of driving, shooting, and strategic planning, is why the series still stands out. The Mafia games are underrated because a lot of people dismiss them as just another crime game, but they're really story-first experiences that happen to let you drive fast cars and shoot bad guys. Each entry is unique in its era and gameplay style, and if you enjoy narrative-heavy single-player games where your actions feel meaningful, the Mafia series is definitely worth checking out. Sleeping Dogs. This game puts you in Hong Kong as Wei Shen, a cop who's gone undercover in one of the city's biggest triad families. Right away, you realize it's not a typical open-world crime game. The city feels so packed and gritty compared to the usual games set in the West. There are people everywhere, vendors shouting, cars honking, scooters weaving through traffic. Even just walking down the street feels so immersive. That's part of what makes exploration so satisfying. Also, combat here in Sleeping Dogs hits way differently than most games. You're not just mashing buttons, it's hand-to-hand martial arts, and the game gives you ways to chain attacks, counter punches, grab enemies, throw them into walls or tables, even use environmental objects like bottles or chairs. Every fight can feel cinematic if you do it right. Guns are in the game too, but the main satisfaction comes from the fighting. You're constantly switching between shooting, punching, and chasing enemies, and because each mission throws in new situations, like multiple enemies, tight corridors, or gangsters with knives, it doesn't ever feel repetitive. Driving here actually matters. Streets aren't wide highways. They're narrow, messy, crowded, and full of random chaos. Chases feel tense because you have to dodge cars, avoid pedestrians, and sometimes fight enemies while driving. The vehicles handle differently too, so a fast sports car isn't the same as a beat-up sedan. You get a real sense of moving through the city, not just getting from point A to B. Then there's the story and characters. Wei's struggle between being a cop and being accepted by the Triad is constant. Some missions are small, like helping a local merchant or doing a simple favor for someone, and some are massive, like full-on shootouts or escaping enemies while carrying out orders. The choices you make in side missions don't always matter on a huge scale, but they make the city feel reactive. People remember you, and the relationships Wei built can affect later moments. The side stuff is surprisingly rewarding. Street races, gambling, mini-games like karaoke, exploring back alleys, taking photos, all of it makes the world feel bigger. Even little missions like stopping a street fight or chasing someone down on foot make the city feel like it exists beyond the main story. You get the feeling that everything is happening for a reason, not just filler. Sleeping Dogs is underrated because people lump it in with GTA and think it's just a clone, but it isn't. The combat, the city, the martial arts, the emotional stakes in the story, and the way it mixes narrative with open world freedom, all of that gives it its own identity. It's chaotic at times, tense at times, and still has these quiet human moments where you just ride around the city or sit down and watch the world go by. If you've never played it, it's one of those games that sticks with you because it actually feels like a living place you're part of. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. The game drops you right into the middle of a bunch of chaos with the Guardians. You're Star-Lord trying to lead this crew of misfits across space while everything is falling apart around you. Rocket is loud, sarcastic, always complaining about everything. Groot barely talks but does his own thing. Drax doesn't get jokes, and Gamora is just trying to keep everyone alive while you're yelling orders. The thing is, they all feel alive. They fight on their own sometimes, mess up, or argue with each other, and that makes makes every fight and cutscene feel unpredictable. Fights are fast, but you have to think a little. You shoot with Star-Lord's blasters, dodge enemy attacks, and at the same time, you can tell the team to do specific moves. Rocket blows stuff up, Groot can slam or block, Drax charges in and wrecks, and Gamora moves super fast and precise. Timing is everything, because if you don't coordinate well, enemies overwhelm you, and sometimes just watching them do their own thing makes it funny or scary. There's also a lot of environmental stuff, walls, boxes, switches that you can use in fights. Outside the action, the story and conversations are the highlight. The crew constantly bickers, jokes, insults each other, and argue about the stupidest stuff, but it makes the world feel alive. Every choice you make in conversations changes how they react. If you're mean, they get annoyed or sarcastic. If you're nice, they actually listen more. You don't see massive branching stories, but little changes in relationships make it feel personal. And the emotional beats hit because these characters have pasts, worries, and secrets, so when something serious happens, it actually lands. Exploring the world is fun. You go to different planets, space stations, and cities. Some places are shiny and futuristic, others are dark, abandoned, or filled with alien life. Every location has hidden conversations, collectibles, or little jokes you can trigger. It's not just running from mission to mission. You spend time listening to the team, walking around, discovering stuff, and laughing at the weird situations that come up. And the soundtrack is perfect. All the 80s music Star-Lord loves fits every moment, from fights to quiet scenes, giving everything a goofy, emotional energy.
By rejecting the promise, you have proven yourselves unworthy, and you must be destroyed.
Evil West. Evil West is this wild mix of western shootouts and monster hunting, and it somehow works better than you'd expect. You play as Jesse, a vampire hunter working for a secret organization in the Old West. The world feels like a dusty, lawless frontier city with mines, saloons, abandoned towns, and creepy forests, but everything has this dark, supernatural twist. One minute you're riding through a canyon, the next you're surrounded by monsters that shouldn't exist. The combat is what keeps you hooked. Jesse has guns, melee weapons, and powers that let you zip around and hit enemies in flashy ways. You can dodge, parry, and chain combos between guns and punches, and the game actually makes you feel badass when it works. Enemies are fast and aggressive, so fights feel alive. You don't just shoot from cover the whole time, you're running, flipping over barrels, punching monsters into walls, and using your powers to grab or toss them. Sometimes you're swarmed by smaller enemies, sometimes it's a single huge boss, and both feel intense in different ways. Exploration isn't huge like an open world, but the environments are fun to move through. Abandoned towns have secret rooms, hidden loot, and side enemies that keep you on your toes. The level design makes it feel like you're always in the thick of it, with verticality, hazards, and stuff you can use in fights. Riding through open deserts or inside mines gives the game a cinematic vibe, like you're in a western movie mixed with a horror story. What makes it unique is how it mixes western themes with over-the-top supernatural stuff. You've got bandits, gunslingers, and cowboys, but then you throw in giant monsters, vampires, and weird experiments. It's chaotic, but still grounded enough that it feels like you're in this world for a reason. The story doesn't get bogged down with unnecessary details. It moves fast, introduces interesting characters, and keeps pushing you forward without feeling repetitive. The Saboteur. The Saboteur throws you into Nazi-occupied Paris as Sean Devlin, an Irish race car driver turned resistance fighter, and the game instantly has this mix of danger, freedom, and style. Paris is huge, full of streets, rooftops, alleys, and hidden corners, and it feels alive. Civilians walk around like life is going on, soldiers patrol, cars drive through narrow streets, and you can climb, jump, and sneak through almost anywhere. At first, the city is gray and oppressive, showing the Nazi control, but as you do missions, liberate districts, and take out key targets, color slowly comes back. Buildings, streets, even shops light up with life again, and it makes your actions feel like they actually matter instead of just being a checklist. Missions are a mix of stealth, sabotage, driving, and combat. You can sneak along rooftops, hide behind crates and barrels, quietly take out guards, or run in guns blazing if you want chaos. There are explosives, pistols, rifles, and melee weapons, but the game rewards creativity. Sometimes it's better to lure a group of soldiers into a trap, blow up a fuel truck, or cut off a patrol path than just shoot your way through. Climbing and parkour is huge. You can leap between rooftops, swing from scaffolding, or scale walls to get behind enemy lines. It feels smooth and natural, and using the vertical spaces in Paris gives missions a different dimension than most open-world stealth games. Driving is another big part. You steal cars, motorcycles, or even trucks to get around quickly or chase down targets. The streets are narrow and often full of obstacles, so high-speed chases feel tense and chaotic. Sometimes you're dodging Nazi patrols, sometimes you're rushing to escape an area after a sabotage mission, and it keeps the pace varied. The story gives Sean reasons to fight beyond just patriotism. He's out for revenge against the Nazis who killed his friend, but he also joins the French resistance and slowly helps free the city. You meet different resistance members, each with their own personalities and missions. Some missions are quiet sabotage or intelligence gathering, others are full-blown action with heavy firefights, and the mix keeps you engaged. The game also has humor. Sean's sarcastic personality and the way he talks to allies or enemies adds life to every scene. The design of Paris itself is something that sticks with you. Landmarks, small streets, slums, and open plazas all feel connected. You can climb up the Eiffel Tower, hide in dark alleys, jump from rooftops into courtyards, and the freedom makes exploration fun. The districts are different too. Some are heavily patrolled, others are more open, and you can choose how to approach missions depending on your style. The Saboteur is underrated because it doesn't have the same polish or hype as Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty, but it gives you freedom, vertical movement, creative combat, and a city that reacts to what you do. It blends stealth, action, driving, and parkour in a way that makes you feel like a real part of this occupied world. Watching Paris slowly come back to life as you liberate areas is surprisingly satisfying, and every mission has its own mix of tension, fun, and chaos. If you play it today, it still feels unique compared to most open world games, and that's why it deserves more attention.
There's Armand now.
Hitman Absolution. Absolution didn't get love when it first came out. Fans of the old Hitman games were upset because it felt more cinematic and story-driven than the pure sandbox stealth the series was known for. Some people hated the tighter levels, the checkpoints, and the way disguises and stealth were slightly more limited. At first, it seemed like it lost the freedom that made the older games special. But over time, people started appreciating it for what it really is: a tense, smart, cinematic stealth game with some of the best level design in the series. You play as Agent 47, and this time it's personal. He's protecting someone while dealing with enemies from his past, which makes the story more urgent than just kill the target. The game mixes stealth, planning, and some action sequences. You can sneak, hide bodies, distract guards, or go loud if you want, but most of the fun comes from finding creative ways to complete your objectives. Poison drinks, drop chandeliers, set up accidents, use sniper rifles, or silently take out enemies and hide their bodies. Every level has multiple solutions. Watching a plan come together is super satisfying. The disguises are important too. Wearing the right clothes lets you blend in, access restricted areas, or get close to targets. Civilians and guards act realistically, so you have to pay attention to patterns and timing. The world feels alive, with crowded streets, hotels, factories, and warehouses that all feel different but believable. There's a lot of verticality and interaction with objects. You can use almost anything in the environment to your advantage. The story and levels make it feel cinematic without losing that classic Hitman Hitman satisfaction. Some missions have intense escapes or action sequences, but the game rewards patience and creativity more than raw skill. Over time, people realize that while it's different from the older Hitman games, it nails tension, planning, and creativity in ways the earlier entries didn't. The tight, focused levels make your decisions feel meaningful, and the cinematic tone makes the story stick in your head. Now, Absolution is looked at as a classic by many players. It might not be everyone's favorite Hitman, but it's unique in the series for its mix of story, tense stealth, and creative gameplay. What was hated at launch for being too different is now praised for giving the series personality and memorable levels that still hold up.
You good?
Road 96. Road 96 is a game about escaping a country on the brink of collapse, and you don't just play as one character, you play as different teenagers, each with their own reasons for running, their own personalities, and their own ways of dealing with the challenges on the road. Every run feels different depending on who you pick, who you meet, and what choices you make along the way. You might hitch a ride with a friendly truck driver in one run, or end up getting chased by the police in another. The game makes you feel like you're really part of a living, breathing world where your decisions matter. The journey itself is the focus. You travel through deserts, forests, mountains, small towns, and highways. Some places feel quiet and lonely with just the wind or a passing car, and others feel alive with markets, colorful streets, or small groups of people doing their own thing. The game doesn't hold your hand. You have to decide where to go, when to take risks, and who to trust. Every conversation can change what happens next, and even tiny decisions ripple through the story in ways that feel meaningful.
Okay, let's go. There's a psycho after.
The gameplay is simple but tense. You hitch rides, sneak past police checkpoints, talk to strangers, or just explore the environment. You make choices constantly, sometimes moral, sometimes just practical. Do you take a risky shortcut through a dangerous forest, or stick to the main road where the cops might catch you? Do you trust a stranger who offers you a ride, or play it safe and walk? The game mixes moments of quiet exploration with sudden tension, like being chased, trapped, or running out of time. Because the encounters are randomized, every run keeps you on your toes. One of the coolest parts of Road 96 is how the multiple character stories overlap. You start seeing threads that connect the runs, people you meet, events that repeat in different ways, and consequences that affect other characters. It's subtle but satisfying, like the world is bigger than just one journey. That makes the game feel alive and layered. The story is about more than just escaping. It's about survival, hope, and the people you meet. Some characters are cynical, others desperate, some just lucky, and each run shows a different perspective on the country and its problems. The game does a great job of telling emotional and personal stories without dragging things out or being overly dramatic. You feel the weight of the world, but there are also small moments of humor or kindness that make it feel human.
And their journeys have only just begun. Each decision could shape your destiny and Petria's too.
Mad Max. Mad Max is one of those games that didn't get nearly the attention it deserved when it came out, but it's actually a really solid, underrated open-world experience. It's set in the post-apocalyptic wasteland made famous by the movies, but the game does a great job of making you feel like you're surviving in it, not just running around completing missions. The world is huge and empty in a way that actually works. Deserts, canyons, ruined towns, and scavenger camps make exploration feel meaningful. You're constantly looking for scrap, fuel, and car parts, and that loop of scavenging, upgrading, and fighting keeps you engaged. It's a harsh, unforgiving world where everything matters, and that tension makes every choice feel real. The car, the magnum opus, is the heart of the game. Driving isn't just moving from one place to another, it's about customizing and upgrading your vehicle to survive the wasteland. You can add armor, weapons, engines, tires, and gadgets, and each upgrade changes how you approach combat. Car battles are chaotic but rewarding. Chasing down convoys, smashing through raiders, or taking out gang leaders requires a mix of speed, timing, and strategic use of your weapons. It's not flashy or over the top, it's just satisfying. You can feel the weight of the car when it crashes into enemies or barriers, and the way combat flows between driving and being on foot feels really natural. On foot, the game has solid melee combat, max punches, grapples, and uses weapons in a way that feels heavy and satisfying. The system is simple, but it works for the world, letting you take down enemies strategically or just smash through them in a fight. The combination of car combat, exploration, and on-foot action keeps the gameplay varied so it never feels repetitive. There are also stealth elements like sneaking past enemy camps, but they're optional. The game lets you choose how to approach every situation, which is rare for open-world games. The story is simple but effective. Max doesn't talk much, but his journey through the wasteland shows a man struggling to survive in a brutal world. You're dealing with gangs, raiders, and corrupt warlords, and your actions shape how the world reacts to you. Even small choices like which convoys to attack or which camps to raid affect how the game plays out. The world itself is a character, full of danger, unpredictability, and moments that make you feel isolated and tense. Mad Max is underrated because it launched around bigger titles and people assumed it was just another movie tie-in, but it actually nails the feeling of being in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. The combination of car combat, upgrades, exploration, and survival elements makes it stand out. It's harsh, satisfying, and immersive in a way that only a few open-world games manage. The game might not be flashy, but every moment feels meaningful, every battle feels tense, and every upgrade makes your journey easier and more fun. If you missed it when it first came out, it's definitely worth checking out now. Spending time in the wasteland, upgrading your car, taking down gangs, and just surviving in a brutal world makes Mad Max one of the most satisfying, underrated games of its generation. Sunset Overdrive. Seriously, when people talk about games that were totally slept on, Sunset Overdrive has to be near the top of the list. It's a game that takes the whole end of the world thing and goes, nah, we're gonna have a party instead. The whole city is crawling with these gross mutant monsters called the OD, and instead of being all scared and serious, you're zipping around like a maniac, having the time of your life. The main thing you have to understand is that the ground is lava in this game. If you just stand around like you would in most shooters, you're gonna get overwhelmed and die super fast. The game forces you to be constantly moving, and that's where the magic is. You're not just walking or running, you're grinding on every railing, wire, or rooftop edge you can find, like a pro skater. You're wall running across buildings and bouncing off cars and trampolines like they're nothing. The controls feel so good that just getting from one point on the map to another is a full-on, awesome challenge. You're stringing together these moves, building up speed and a style meter, and you feel like a total acrobatic ninja with a machine gun. And speaking of guns, they are completely unhinged. This is the team that made the Ratchet and Clank games, so you know the weapons are gonna be crazy. Forget boring shotguns, you get a gun that shoots exploding teddy bears, a freeze gun that pops enemies like ice cubes, and a crazy turret that fires vinyl records. These weapons get more powerful the more you use them, and your style meter unlocks things called amps, which give you temporary superpowers, like setting off explosions every time you bounce, or having tornadoes shoot out of your weapon. It's non-stop, colorful chaos. Plus, the whole attitude of the game is just fun. It knows it's a video game. The characters constantly make jokes about quests, collectibles, and respawning. When you die, you don't just fade to black. You come back in these hilarious, quick animations that reference other movies and games. The style is super bright and punk rock, which is a nice change from the usual grim, dark apocalypse. It's got hours and hours of that great, energetic single-player action that people really miss. If you want a game that makes you smile while you're destroying hundreds of monsters, you absolutely have to pick up Sunset Overdrive. Prey 2017. This is honestly one of the most interesting sci-fi games of the decade. You play as Morgan Yu aboard the Talos 1 space station, a massive, futuristic research facility orbiting Earth, and the way the game lets you explore it is one of its strongest points. The station is full of hidden rooms, labs, maintenance areas, and abandoned offices, and every corner has something that makes you curious, a piece of story, a note, or a tool that can help you survive. It doesn't hold your hand, which makes the exploration feel real. You're constantly thinking thinking about how to approach enemies, where to go next, and how to use the resources around you. The gameplay is what really makes Prey special. The aliens, called Typhon, are smart and dangerous, and the game encourages creative problem solving. You can fight them directly, use traps, or manipulate the environment to your advantage. The game gives you powers called neuromods that let you do things like climb walls, hack machines, or even mimic objects, and experimenting with these powers is extremely satisfying. Every choice in combat can feel meaningful, and the freedom the game gives you to approach situations in multiple ways is rare. You can sneak, hack, shoot, or use your powers, and each method completely changes how encounters play out. I think many people wrote it off as just another sci-fi shooter, but it's more than that. It combines Metroidvania-style exploration, RPG elements, and immersive sim mechanics into a cohesive, tense experience. The story itself is layered and morally gray. You're discovering what's happening on Talos 1, questioning who you can trust, and uncovering secrets about yourself. The writing, environmental storytelling, and audio cues all make the station feel alive, like a character in itself. Prey is also incredibly replayable. Depending on which powers you choose, which areas you explore first, or how you handle the Typhon, your experience can feel completely different. The tension, the mystery, and the sense of isolation are constantly present, making every playthrough unique. It's not flashy or over the top, but it's smart, detailed, and immersive, and the freedom the game gives you makes it stand out in the genre. If you missed it when it first came out, Prey is worth going back to now. It's a brilliant mix of exploration, combat, and choice, and it's one of the smartest, most underrated games of its generation. The Invincible. This one is a super cool, old-school sci-fi adventure that I bet most people miss completely. If you've ever wished you could actually walk around inside one of those awesome retro sci-fi book covers from the 1960s, this is your chance. The whole style of the game is called Atom Punk, and it's gorgeous. Think chunky, brightly colored metal tools, big, bulky helmets, and all the gear looks like something NASA would have built 50 years ago if they had way more budget and imagination. It's a totally fresh look that you don't see in games today, which is usually all sleek silver and black. You play as a scientist named Yasna, and you wake up on a completely alien planet called Regis 3. The problem is your crew is missing, and you can't remember exactly what happened. So your main job is to explore this strange, dusty, and lonely planet to find your teammates and figure out the mystery of what wiped out another much bigger ship that was here before you. This isn't a game where you shoot things or jump over lasers. It's a narrative adventure, which means it's all about the story and the atmosphere. It's slow and thoughtful, but that's a good thing because it builds this incredible feeling of being totally alone and small in this massive unknown universe. The main gameplay is exploring and using all your cool retro gadgets. You've got these big mechanical binoculars and trackers that look like toys, but they are super important for finding clues. You're always talking to the astrogator Novik on the radio, and the voice acting and their conversations are what really pull you through the game. They talk about science, philosophy, and what it means to be human in a way that is just really smart and interesting. The mystery on Regis 3 is deep, and it gets really intense. It's based on a classic book by a famous Polish author, and it's all about humans messing with things they don't understand. The game is all about making tough choices that really affect what happens, and there are a bunch of different endings you can get. If you want a slow burn mystery that has amazing visuals and makes you think, The Invincible is one you definitely need to play. It's truly a hidden gem.
What is there to understand? We have to destroy it.
Shadows of the Damned Hella Remastered. So in this game, you play as Garcia Hotspur, this demon hunter dude whose girlfriend gets kidnapped by demons, so naturally you go to hell to get her back. It's a pretty straightforward setup, but the game is anything but. The whole thing has this grindhouse B-movie vibe, and it's full of crazy characters and over-the-top action. The combat is pretty standard third-person shooting, but it's the atmosphere and the humor that make it stand out. Garcia is constantly cracking jokes, and the game is full of visual gags and silly situations. It's not afraid to be ridiculous, and that's part of its charm. What's cool is the way they use light and dark in the game. You have this torch that you use to fight off the shadows and solve puzzles. It's a neat mechanic that adds a layer of strategy to the combat. You can't just run in guns blazing, you have to think about how you're going to use your light to your advantage. The story, while simple, is actually pretty touching at times. It's about Garcia's love for his girlfriend and his determination to rescue her no matter what. It's a surprisingly sweet story underneath all the demon slaying and crazy humor. Call of Juarez Gunslinger. Okay, so Call of Juarez Gunslinger. Picture this. You're in a dusty saloon, the kind with swinging doors and a piano player tinkling away in the corner. This grizzled old bounty hunter, Silas Greaves, walks in, orders a drink, and starts telling stories about his life. That's basically the whole game. It's framed as him recounting his adventures, and it's a really clever way to do it. What's really cool is that Silas isn't always the most reliable narrator. He tends to exaggerate things, and sometimes he even gets his facts mixed up. So the game actually changes based on what he says. He might be telling a story about fighting off a gang of outlaws, and then suddenly the game throws a whole bunch more enemies at you because, hey, that's how Silas remembers it. Or he might say he jumped across a huge chasm, and then the level design will suddenly change to include this impossible jump. It's a really fun and unpredictable way to experience the story. You're never quite sure what's real and what's just Silas's imagination. The gunfights are pretty great too. It's a solid western shooter with all the classic weapons, revolvers, rifles, shotguns, the whole shebang. You can slow down time for some cool slow motion kills, and there are these duels where you have to be lightning fast on the draw. It's a satisfying and engaging combat system. It's not just about shooting. There's some strategy involved in how you use your weapons and when you use your special abilities. The game has a really distinct look too. It's got this stylized, almost comic book-like art style that really fits the over-the-top nature of Silas's stories. It's visually appealing, and it gives the game a unique personality. It's not trying to be realistic, it's embracing the fun and exaggerated style of classic westerns. Call of Juarez Gunslinger isn't a massive epic game, but it's a really enjoyable and memorable experience. It's a fresh take on the western genre, and it's definitely worth a play if you're into shooters or just like a good fun story. It's a great game for when you just want to unwind and have a good time. It's a fun, quirky, and surprisingly clever game. Resonance of Fate? So, Resonance of Fate. This game is just weird. Like JRPG weird, but even more weird. So, it's another JRPG, right? So you've got your big world, your airships, your crystals, all that good stuff. But the way you fight, forget everything you know about turn-based combat. This game has its own thing going on. It's called the tri-attack system, and it's complicated. Basically, you've got these three characters and they're all armed to the teeth. You're trying to chain their attacks together to do maximum damage. It involves running around, jumping, and doing these special scratches to really hurt the bad guys. It sounds confusing, and yeah, it kind of is at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty satisfying. It's like solving a puzzle while you're fighting. The story is, well, it's a JRPG story. You've got your classic elements, a corrupt government, a big conspiracy, and of course, the chosen ones, or in this case mercenaries, who are destined to save the world. It's not the most original story you'll ever see, but it's told well enough, and the characters are pretty likable. They've got their own quirks and personalities, which makes them fun to watch.
At your service.
What really makes Resonance of Fate different is the way it looks. It's got this really distinctive visual style. It's almost like a steampunk anime with all these elaborate costumes and crazy gadgets. The world itself is full of gears and clockwork stuff. It's a really cool and unique look that gives the game a lot of character. Now, this game is not easy. That combat system I was talking about, it takes time and effort to learn. You can't just button mash your way through battles. You have to think about what you're doing and plan your attacks carefully. It can be frustrating sometimes, especially when you're first starting out, but when you finally pull off a perfect combo and take down a tough enemy, it feels really good. So Resonance of Fate, it's definitely not for everyone. It's a weird, challenging, and sometimes frustrating game, but if you're a JRPG fan who's looking for something different and you're willing to put in the time to learn the ropes, you might actually enjoy it. It's definitely a unique experience, and it's got a certain charm to it. It's a bit of a niche game, but it's memorable. The Vanquish. Imagine a game where you're basically a human rocket sliding around at insane speeds, blowing stuff up in slow motion. That's Vanquish. It's pure, unadulterated action. You play this guy, Sam, and he's wearing this super powered suit. He's trying to take back a space station that's been taken over by robots, and that's pretty much all the story you need. It's not about the plot, it's about the crazy action. And the action is wild. Sam can boost around like he's on roller skates, he can slow down time so he can line up perfect shots, and he's got a whole arsenal of crazy weapons. Think shotguns that turn enemies into goo, rocket launchers, and all sorts of other fun stuff. It's just a constant explosion of gunfire, slow motion dives, and robots getting blown to bits. It's like a Michael Bay movie, but you're in control. What's cool is that it's not just mindless action. There's actually some strategy involved. You can't just run in guns blazing because you'll get taken down pretty quickly. You have to think about how you're going to use your abilities and your weapons. The slow motion thing is super important. It lets you dodge attacks and line up shots, and it adds a cool tactical element to the fighting. They're always trying to find the best way to use your limited resources and take down the enemies efficiently. The game looks really good too. It's got this sleek futuristic style, everything is shiny and metallic, and the robots look really cool. The action is always smooth and fluid, even when there's a ton going on screen. It's just a visually impressive game. Vanquish is a pretty short game, you can probably beat it in a few hours, but those few hours are packed with intense action. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, it's just about having fun and feeling like a badass. If you're looking for a game that's fast, fun, and doesn't require a lot of thinking, you should definitely check this one out. It's just a really great action game. It's perfect for when you just want to let loose and blow some stuff up. It's a classic for a reason. Binary Domain. This game is really funny one, so imagine Gears of War, but made by RGG Studios, the same studio who are known for the amazing Yakuza games. This is really weird and unexpected, but anyway, this game is kind of a hidden gem, I think. It's a third-person shooter, but it's got this really interesting angle. It's all about robots and relationships. You play this guy, Dan, and he's part of a squad sent to Japan to deal with these robots that have gone rogue. The story is, well, it's a little cheesy at times, but honestly, it's pretty engaging. It's got some surprising twists and turns, and the characters are actually pretty likable. They've got their own personalities and quirks, which makes them fun to watch. What makes Binary Domain different is this thing they call the consequence system. It's all about how you interact with your squad mates. If you're a jerk to them, they're not going to be too keen on helping you out in a firefight. But if you're cool and supportive, they'll have your back. It's not just about shooting, it's about building trust and teamwork. It makes you actually think about what you say and how you act, because it can really affect how the game plays out. It's a neat mechanic that adds a layer of strategy beyond just pointing and shooting. The shooting itself is pretty solid. It's your basic third-person cover shooter, but it's well done. The robots are fun to fight, they've got different designs and attack patterns, so it keeps things interesting, and there's a good variety of weapons to try out. So it's not the most innovative combat system ever, but it's satisfying and enjoyable. The game also has a really cool visual style. It's kind of gritty and futuristic, which I think works really well. The robots look awesome, and the environments are interesting to explore. It's just a visually appealing game. Binary Domain is one of those games that I think a lot of people missed when it came out. It's got a decent story, some likable characters, and a really cool gameplay mechanic that makes it stand out from other shooters. If you're looking for something a little different and you like games with squad mechanics and some strategic depth, you should definitely give this one a try. It's a game that's a bit underappreciated, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's just a good, solid shooter with some interesting ideas. Asura's Wrath. Man, this game is just crazy. It's like someone took a bunch of anime tropes, mixed them with some Hindu mythology, and then cranked everything up to 11. It's not your typical action game, it's more like an interactive anime series. You play Asura, who's basically a demigod, and he gets betrayed and killed, which, you know, is a bad start to his day. But then he comes back, fueled by pure, unadulterated rage, and he's out for revenge. That's the basic plot, and it's pretty straightforward, but the way they tell the story is anything but. What makes Asura's Wrath stand out is how cinematic it is. It's broken up into episodes, just like a TV show, and it's packed with quick-time events and these ridiculously over-the-top action sequences. Think giant explosions, planet-sized enemies, and Asura punching things so hard they explode. It's not just about fighting, it's about experiencing this epic, almost operatic story. It's like you're watching an anime, but you get to control what happens. The actual fighting is, well, it's there. It's not the deepest combat system you'll ever see. You've got your basic attacks, your special moves, and that's about it. But honestly, it's not really about the complexity of the combat. It's more about the spectacle. It's about seeing Asura unleash his fury and just destroy everything in his path. He can punch mountains apart. He can shoot energy blasts. He can basically do anything the story needs him to do. It's more about the visual impact than the technical skill. And the game looks fantastic. It's got this really unique art style that's inspired by anime and Hindu art. The characters are all huge and powerful, and the environments are these massive, imaginative landscapes. It's a visually stunning game, even by today's standards. Asura's Wrath isn't a long game, and it's definitely not a traditional action game. It's more of an interactive anime experience. It's short, it's loud, it's completely over the top, and it doesn't apologize for any of it. If you're looking for something different and you enjoy a good dose of spectacle and ridiculous action, you should definitely give it a try. It's a unique and memorable experience. It's a great example of how to make a truly bombastic and over-the-top action game. It's not trying to be subtle, it's just pure, unadulterated fun. Murdered sole suspect.
To bring him closer to the truth about his murder.
The whole idea behind this game is pretty cool. You're a cop, Ronin, and you get murdered. Brutal, right? But instead of, just being gone, you become a ghost. And your new ghost job? Solving your own murder. It's a detective game, but with a supernatural twist. What makes it interesting is how you actually investigate. Being a ghost has its perks. You can walk right through walls, which is handy for sneaking into places you shouldn't be. You can possess people, so you can eavesdrop on conversations and see what they're thinking. You can even rewind time a little bit to see what happened in a certain spot. It's a pretty creative way to gather clues and figure out what went down. It's not just about looking at stuff, you're actively using your ghost powers to find the truth. The story itself is a classic murder mystery, really. It's got twists, it's got turns, it's got red herrings, all the stuff you'd expect. It's not the most original story ever told, but it's engaging enough to keep you playing. You also get to learn more about Ronin's past and his relationships with other people, which adds some depth to the whole thing. It's not just about solving the crime, it's about Ronin's personal journey too. The game has a pretty cool look too. It's dark and atmospheric, which makes sense since you're a ghost and everything. It's set in Salem, Massachusetts, which is a perfect setting for a ghost story. The city looks great and it definitely adds to the creepy vibe. It's a city with a history and the game uses that well. The Darkness 2. This game is dark, like really dark. It's based on a comic book and it definitely has that gritty noir feel. You play Jackie Estacado, who's basically a mob boss, and he gets possessed by this demonic force called the Darkness, which, sounds like a bad day, but it gives him some seriously messed up powers, which he then uses to get revenge on everyone who's wronged him. So it's a revenge story, but with demons. What really makes the Darkness 2 stand out is the way it looks. It's cel-shaded, which gives it this kind of comic book style, and it's incredibly violent. I mean really violent. The Darkness powers are brutal. Jackie can sprout these demonic tentacles and use them to grab enemies, throw stuff around, and let's just say things get messy. It's definitely not a game for kids or anyone who's squeamish. The gameplay is a mix of shooting and using these Darkness powers. You've got your standard guns, but the tentacles are what make it interesting. You can grab enemies and use them as shields, or you can rip them apart. It's a really fun and satisfying way to fight. It's not just about shooting, you've got these extra powers that really add to the combat. The story is actually pretty good too. It's a dark and twisted tale of revenge, sure, but it's also about Jackie's struggle to control the darkness. It's like he's fighting his own inner demons, literally. The characters are well developed and the voice acting is excellent. You actually start to care about what happens to Jackie, even though he's kind of a bad guy. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Well, this one's quiet, simple, but super emotional. It's one of those games that doesn't use a ton of words, but still says a lot through its world, its characters, and how you actually play it. You control two brothers, both at the same time. Their father is sick, and the only way to save him is to go on this long journey to find a special cure. That's the whole setup. No big cutscenes, no long explanations. You just start walking, and the story slowly unfolds as you travel. The unique part? You control both brothers on the same controller. One analog stick moves the older brother and the other controls the younger one. It sounds weird at first, and yeah, it takes a minute to get used to, but once it clicks, it feels really natural. They each help in different ways. One's stronger, one's smaller, and you need both to solve little puzzles or get through obstacles. The game never tells you what to do, but the design is smart enough that you just kind of figure it out as you go. The world is beautiful in a quiet fairy tale kind of way. You walk through forests, snowy mountains, old ruins, and weird places filled with strange creatures. Every area feels different, and there's no dialogue to explain anything, just little gestures, sounds, and the environment itself telling the story. And somehow, it all makes sense without needing real words. The bond between the two brothers grows stronger as you go. You see them help each other, protect each other, and get through some really tough stuff. It's not just about puzzles or getting from point A to B, it's about what they're going through together. There's some heavy moments later in the game that hit hard, especially because you've been with these two the whole time, figuring things out side by side. The game's not super long, maybe 3 to 4 hours, but it doesn't waste time. Every section has something new to see or do, and the ending, no spoilers, but it's powerful. One of those moments that sticks in your head for a long time. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is a calm, thoughtful kind of game. It's easy to play, easy to follow, and it slowly pulls you in with its emotion and creative gameplay. No fancy menus, no side quests, just a strong, focused story told in a really unique way. The Banner Saga. This one's like playing through a serious, slow-burning Viking storybook. It's got that heavy emotional tone right from the start, and it never really lets go. The world feels like it's falling apart, and you're just trying to hold things together the best you can. You're following a group of people, some warriors, some just families, as they travel across a frozen world that's slowly dying. The sun has stopped moving in the sky, these huge armored enemies called the Dredge are pushing in from the north, and everything feels like it's getting worse every day. It's all about survival, choices, and sacrifice. The game is split between two parts. First, there's the story and travel part where you manage your caravan. You're moving across snowy mountains and valleys, and along the way you've got to make tough decisions like who to trust, when to stop and rest, how to handle fights within your group, stuff like that. Every choice matters. You might lose people, you might run out of supplies, things can go bad fast if you're not careful. Then there's the turn-based combat, where you control your heroes on a grid. You've got archers, big axe-wielding giants, shield-bearers. Each one plays differently. Fights are all about strategy. It's not super fast or flashy, but it's smart. You've got to think about armor, strength, positioning, and losing a battle can really set you back. The visuals are super clean, everything's hand-drawn with this sharp 2D art style. It looks like an old-school animated movie. Not cartoony, just really bold and stylized. Every scene, every piece of the world has a lot of mood to it. The music's calm, but kind of sad too, which adds to the whole feeling that you're part of this long, hard journey where hope is starting to fade. There's not a ton of talking in the traditional voice-acted way. Most of the story is told through text and artwork, but it still feels personal, especially when you start to care about your characters and see how your decisions affect them. You can lose people permanently, and it's not always because you messed up in a fight. Sometimes it's just a tough choice with no good answer. The Banner Saga doesn't rush you. It lets you feel the weight of the world, and that's kind of what makes it special. You're leading a group of people through hard times, making choices that feel stressful but real. It's serious, it's focused, and it tells a strong story without needing to yell or go over the top.
Why are we alive when even the gods are dead? I awoke, and I knew why we're still alive.
Blake. This one's super chill. No combat, no pressure, no big drama. You play as Meredith Weiss, a woman who takes a break from her busy city job to come back to her small hometown and fill in for her dad as a mail carrier. Yeah, you're literally just driving around a quiet little lakeside town in the 80s, delivering mail and packages. That's the game. But it's more about the vibe than what you're doing. Each day, you hop in the mail truck, drive around this cozy place called Providence Oaks, and drop off letters. Along the way, you meet the people who live there. Old friends, new faces, some weird, some sweet, and you slowly get to know them just by talking. You make little choices in how you respond, who you spend time with, and whether you want to reconnect or just pass through.
Well, hello there, big cuddly guy.
The conversations are simple, natural, and kind of relaxing. No big stakes, no one yelling or rushing you, just people talking about life, their jobs, their problems. Meredith herself is easy to connect with. She's trying to figure out if the fast-paced career she left behind is what she really wants, or if this slower life actually feels more real. The town looks nice too. Nothing fancy, just quiet roads, trees, lakeside cabins, and calm music playing in the background. It gives off strong, slow afternoon energy, and that's kind of what makes Lake work. It's not trying to wow you, it's just letting you breathe. Gameplay wise, yeah, it's simple. Drive, deliver, chat, repeat. But it's kind of like a warm cup of coffee. You play a little bit each day, talk to folks, and slowly start feeling like you live there. And depending on your choices, you can build relationships, even start a little romance if you want. Firewatch. Firewatch is one of those games that just pulls you in with its vibe. It's not about action or puzzles. It's more about being in someone else's shoes for a while. You play as a guy named Henry, who takes a summer job as a fire lookout in the middle of a huge forest in Wyoming. He's out there alone in a wooden tower, miles away from anyone, just watching the trees and trying to get some peace. Henry's going through a lot. He's dealing with some personal stuff back home, stuff that's left him kind of broken, and this job is basically his way of escaping it. The only person he talks to is Delilah, another lookout who works in a tower way off in the distance. You never meet her face to face, but she's always talking to you through the radio. And that's really what the whole game is built on, the conversations between Henry and Delilah. Their back and forth is super real. You choose what Henry says, and depending on how you talk to her, you can keep things light and funny or get deep and serious. Some of the choices hit hard, especially when you start learning more about Henry's life and why he took the job. It's not a romance story, but there's real chemistry, and you start feeling like these are two people trying to figure themselves out just in the middle of nowhere.
Why are you freaking out?
I'm not freaking out.
Good.
The gameplay is simple. You walk through the woods, follow trails, use your map and compass, check out weird stuff like a broken fence, a missing backpack, or some strange signals coming from the trees. At first it all feels normal, peaceful even, but then the story slowly starts throwing in little bits of mystery and you're never quite sure what's real or if something darker is going on. Visually, the game looks amazing in a chill way. Big open skies, bright sunsets, firelight at night. It feels like you're out there, hiking alone with nothing but nature around you. The colors are warm and soft, and the forest changes with the time of day. You can almost feel the wind and hear the trees moving around you. The soundtrack only pops in during key moments, and it always hits the right mood. There's no combat, no enemies, no leveling up. You're just walking, exploring, and talking, but somehow it's super engaging. The way the story unfolds and how it all comes back to Henry and Delilah keeps you hooked the whole way. It only takes about 4 or 5 hours to finish, but it sticks with you way after. Firewatch is quiet, emotional, and kind of beautiful in its own way. It's about being alone, figuring out what matters, and just listening to someone who's also kind of lost. If you want a calm, story-driven game that feels like a good short movie with strong characters, this one's a solid pick.
Nothing like this has ever happened before.
Maybe I'm just losing my mind.
I need you to feel safe out here.
Well, I sure don't now.
You will. I promise.
What Remains of Edith Finch. You play as Edith Finch, the last living member of the Finch family, and you're heading back to your old family home. It's this big, weird house out in the woods filled with locked rooms and old stuff left exactly how it was. The rest of your family? They're all gone. One by one, they all died, and no one really knows why. People say there's a curse on the Finch family, and now you're back to figure out what really happened. As you move through the house, you find journals, letters, and other personal things left behind. Each one tells the story of a different family member. But here's the cool part. You don't just read about them. You play through each story in a totally different way. One might feel like a cartoon, another like a dream. One of them has you working in a fish factory while your character daydreams about being a king. Some are fun, some are peaceful, and some are just plain sad, but each one sticks with you because it's not just about what happened, it's about how it felt. The way the game shows these stories is super creative. Words appear in the world as you walk, floating in the air or wrapping around objects. The camera moves in cool, unexpected ways. The whole thing feels like a short story collection. Each chapter is a different person, a different style, and a different mood. The house itself is full of detail. Every room tells you something about the person who lived there, and it feels like time just froze in those spaces. Nothing's explained directly, but you pick things up just by looking around. The music is soft and emotional, and the voice acting from Edith is calm, almost like she's reading from a journal. The game isn't long, maybe 2 hours, but it's packed with emotion. Some parts are sweet, some are heavy, some hit really hard out of nowhere, and by the end, it's not just about death or sadness, it's about memories, family, and how stories keep people alive in a way.
This is where your story begins.
Kena, Bridge of Spirits. Now this one feels like playing a Pixar movie, straight up. It's beautiful, it's smooth, and it's got heart. You play as Kena, a young spirit guide who helps lost souls move on. She's got a staff, some cool magic, and a bunch of tiny fuzzy creatures called the Rot that follow her around and help out. The story's emotional, but told in a calm, simple way. You're not saving the world or anything massive, it's more personal. Kena shows up in this mountain village where everything's kind of decayed and most of the people are long gone. The spirits left behind are stuck, haunted by pain or regret, and it's your job to help them let go. It's about healing, closure, and understanding what people went through, and that gives the game a softer, more thoughtful feel. Gameplay-wise, it's pretty straightforward but fun. You explore the world, solve light puzzles, do some platforming, and fight enemies. Combat feels kind of like a mix between light action games and Zelda. You've got quick attacks, a shield, a bow, and later on you unlock more powers. It's not super deep, but it feels smooth and satisfying, especially once you get the hang of dodging and timing your attack. And the Rot are the real MVPs. They help you in fights, move objects, unlock new areas, and they're just straight up adorable. The more you find, the more powerful they become, but you'll also unlock little hats for them. Just a fun little touch that adds charm. Now let's talk about the visuals, because man, this game is gorgeous. The lighting, the colors, the animation, it all looks like something you'd expect from a big animated film studio, not a small indie team. Forests feel alive, ruined temples have real atmosphere, and the cutscenes are legit top tier. Everything feels crafted with care. It's not a super long game, maybe 8 to 10 hours, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. Some folks might feel like the story could have gone deeper or that the platforming is a bit simple, but honestly, it nails what it sets out to do. It's heartfelt, polished, and full of charm from start to finish. Red Faction Guerrilla. You play as Alec Mason, a regular dude who just wants to mine rocks on Mars, but somehow ends up leading a full-blown rebellion against the Earth Defense Force, EDF. Sounds serious, right? Nah, this game is all about blowing stuff up, and man, it does that perfectly. The destruction physics here are insane, even by today's standards. Every building, tower, and bridge is fully destructible, and it all collapses in real time. You're not just shooting at walls and watching them chip away. You can take out support beams, plant explosives, and watch entire buildings crumble in the most realistic, satisfying way possible. There's nothing better than rigging a massive tower with remote charges, detonating it from a distance, and seeing it slowly tip over and smash into the ground. It's pure chaos, and it freaking rules. Again, weapons are wild as well. You've got remote charges that stick to anything, rocket launchers, and the nano rifle, which dissolves enemies and objects into dust. The destruction gets crazier the longer you play. At some point, you'll unlock mechs that let you smash through entire bases like you're in a Godzilla movie. The world itself is surprisingly cool. Mars is rugged, dusty, and weirdly pretty. The outposts, EDF bases, and Martian settlements feel gritty and lived in. But the best part is how the game encourages total freedom. You can take down EDF strongholds however you want, stealthily sabotage them, ram a truck through their walls, or just demolish the entire base with explosives. There's no right way to play, which makes it stupidly fun. The missions are packed with pure mayhem. You'll be ambushing convoys, rescuing prisoners, and blowing up supply depots. And the side activities are just as fun. You can drop drive into EDF outposts, cause as much damage as possible, and watch your rebel morale skyrocket. But honestly, the best part of the game is when you just ignore the missions and go nuts. You'll load up a truck with explosives, drive it straight into a base, and watch everything explode in glorious slow motion. Or you'll spend hours smashing random buildings with your sledgehammer just because you can. It's the ultimate stress relief game. If you've never played Red Faction Guerrilla, you're missing out on one of the best destruction sims ever made. The physics still hold up, the combat is stupidly fun, and it's perfect for anyone who just wants to blow off steam. Seriously, no other game makes demolition this fun. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Man, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is such a cool revival for the series. You're playing as Sargon, a badass new hero, running, jumping, and slicing your way through this gorgeous mythological world. It's got that classic Prince of Persia platforming, wall running, climbing, and crazy flips, but everything feels faster and more fluid. It's like the old games, but they crank the energy up. The combat is where it really shines. You've got flashy moves, cool abilities, and fights that make you think a little without getting too frustrating. And those boss battles, so good. They're big, intense, and feel like a proper challenge, but you always want to keep going. Plus, the game throws in some Metroidvania vibes, so you're unlocking new areas, finding secrets, and getting stronger as you go. It keeps things interesting the whole time. The art style is a big shift. It's bright, colorful, and just full of life. It's not that old, gritty Prince of Persia look, but it works so well here. It feels modern without losing the magic. Add in a killer soundtrack that keeps you hyped, and it all comes together perfectly. If you've ever loved Prince of Persia, this one will feel like coming home. If you haven't, it's a great place to start. It's fun, fast, and packed with moments that'll make you grin. Don't sleep on it. It's proof this series still knows how to bring it.
I will fulfill my destiny and save the kingdom.
Banishers: Ghosts of New Eden. Banishers: Ghosts of New Eden is a game that hits hard with both its story and gameplay. It's an emotional action RPG where you play as Red and Auntie, two lovers who also happen to be ghost hunters. The twist? Auntie is a ghost herself, stuck between life and death, and the game is all about navigating this tragic situation while battling supernatural forces. It's heavy on the feels but never overbearing. The gameplay mixes action and strategy. Red brings the physical combat with swords and weapons that feel weighty and satisfying, while Auntie uses her ghostly powers to manipulate the battlefield. The way the two work together is seamless, and it makes the fights feel dynamic and fresh. There's also a lot of choice baked into the game. You're deciding the fate of the ghosts you banish, and those decisions ripple through the story in meaningful ways. What really grabbed me was the world. It's haunting and beautiful with this rugged frontier vibe that's full of mystery and danger. The art and lighting give it a moody atmosphere without feeling overly dark, and it all ties into the game's emotional themes. Every location feels like it has a story to tell. The narrative is the real heart here. It's not just about chasing ghosts, it's about love loss and the lengths you'll go to for the people you care about. The writing is sharp, the characters feel real, and the choices you make will stick with you. It's not just a game, it's an experience. If you're into story-driven games like The Witcher 3 or Life is Strange, this one's right up your alley. It's got action, emotion, and a world that pulls you in. Don't miss it. It's one of those games that stays with you. Nobody Wants to Die.
Flammable, or someone could have ignited it deliberately.
Man, Nobody Wants to Die really got to me. It's not just a game, it's this deep, intense look at what life would be like if people could live forever. The story takes place in New York City, way in the future, in 2329. People can move their minds into new bodies, which sounds cool, but it's caused all kinds of problems. You play as James Kara, a detective trying to solve some brutal murders in a world that's falling apart. The gameplay is all about being a detective. You don't just walk around and guess. You use this awesome tool called the REM Reconstructor to replay crime scenes and figure out what went down. It feels so immersive, like you're really solving a mystery. It's not about running and gunning, it's about slowing down, thinking, and putting the pieces together. Every clue matters, and when you finally crack something, it feels so satisfying.
Ah, you're finally paying attention.
What blew me away the most was the world. The city is just wow. It's dark, messy, and full of personality. Neon lights, crumbling buildings, and all these little details make it feel alive, even though it's clearly a mess. You can tell this world has a history, and exploring it feels like peeling back layers of a story. Even the sound design is top-notch. Sometimes it's quiet and creepy, other times it's tense and dramatic, keeping you on edge the whole time. The characters are another big part of what makes this game special. Everyone you meet has their own story, and they all feel so real. Some people are broken, some are trying to survive, and others make you question if immortality is even worth it. It's deep without being too complicated, and it really makes you think about what it means to be human. But I'll be honest, this isn't a fast or action-packed game. It takes its time, and the puzzles can be tricky. If you're looking for non-stop action, this might not be for you. But if you love stories and enjoy figuring things out, this game will stick with you. If you like games that make you think, like The Last of Us or This War of Mine, you'll love Nobody Wants to Die. It's emotional, clever, and stays in your head long after you're done playing. It's not just a game, it's an experience you don't want to miss.
Omega code 112358. Suspected murder.
The Technomancer. The Technomancer is one of those games that flew under the radar, but if you're into sci-fi RPGs, it's worth checking out. Set on Mars, it's got this gritty, dystopian vibe with a mix of cyberpunk tech and post-apocalyptic survival. You play as Zachariah, a rookie Technomancer, basically a warrior with electricity-based powers, and you're caught in the middle of a conflict over water, survival, and shady politics. The gameplay is a mix of action and RPG elements. The combat is solid, giving you 3 different fighting styles to switch between on the fly melee weapons, guns, and hand-to-hand with Technomancer abilities. Those electric powers, they're flashy and fun, making combat feel a bit more unique compared to your standard RPG fare. It's not without its rough edges, some fights can feel a bit clunky, but there's enough variety to keep things interesting. The world building is where the game shines. Mars feels lived in with factions, intrigue, and a history that you slowly uncover as you explore. You've got mutants, rebels, corporations, it's messy, and that makes it feel real. The choices you make affect how characters and factions see you, adding some nice layers to the story. And yeah, it can get a little cheesy in the dialogue sometimes, but the story's heart is in the right place. Visually, it's not the flashiest game, but the art style works. The red deserts of Mars and the tech-heavy interiors give it a unique aesthetic. The soundtrack is atmospheric, fitting the tone of a harsh, survival-focused world. If you can overlook some of its rough spots, the Technomancer has a lot to offer. It's not a triple A blockbuster, but it's got heart, ambition, and some cool ideas that make it worth your time, especially if you're into underdog RPGs. Give it a shot if you're in the mood for something different with a sci-fi twist. The Council.
William, you dirty traitor.
This game feels like it was made for people who love digging into layered stories and making tough decisions. It's part narrative adventure, part RPG, and it throws you into a mystery that only gets weirder the deeper you go. You play as Louis de Richet, a member of a secretive organization called the Golden Order, who's been summoned to an isolated mansion to find his missing mother. But this isn't just any mansion, it's hosted by Lord Mortimer, a man with way too many secrets, and the guests are some of the most influential figures of the late 18th century, like Napoleon and George Washington. The setup feels like the start of an Agatha Christie novel, but then it starts spiraling into supernatural territory in the best way. What makes the Council stand out is how it handles conversations and choices. It's not just about picking dialogue options, you have skills to upgrade like manipulation, linguistics, and occultism, which open up entirely different paths and interactions. Let's say you're good at politics, you can steer the conversation to get what you want, but if you lack the skill, you might stumble and reveal something you didn't mean to. Every choice feels like it matters, and the game doesn't hold your hand if you mess up.
Excuse me, madam. I'm sure we've met before, but I don't remember.
The story leans hard into conspiracy and the occult, and it does so with zero hesitation. What starts as a search for Louis's mother becomes this sprawling tale of secret societies, ancient artifacts, and power struggles that go way beyond politics. It's weird, ambitious, and filled with moments where you're not quite sure who to trust or if you can even trust yourself. Visually, the game has this old world elegance that fits its setting perfectly. The mansion is a character in itself, with its grand halls, hidden passages, and art dripping with symbolism. The character designs are distinctive, and while the animations can feel stiff at times, the visual style pulls you into its world. One of the coolest aspects is how it encourages replayability. Because of how skills work and the branching storylines, you can easily miss entire chunks of content on your first playthrough. It's not a game that just pretends your choices matter, they actually do, and they can lead to wildly different outcomes. The Council isn't afraid to take risks, and that's what makes it special. It's a game that keeps you thinking, second guessing, and wondering what's going to happen next. If you're into intricate narratives with a dose of the supernatural, this one's absolutely worth playing. It's not perfect, but it's unique, and that's what makes it stick with you.
And secrecy are both pillars of the organizations for which we work.
You know, Louis, I've only just now realized that I've been drawn here.
Agatha Christie murder on the Orient Express.
He died from multiple stab wounds of varying...
The 2023 murder on the Orient Express by Microids puts a fresh spin on one of the most famous mysteries ever written. You still have the iconic train, the suspenseful murder investigation, and Hercule Poirot at the center of it all, but this version adds some new twists and a few surprises to keep things interesting, even if you already know the story. This time, you don't just play as Poirot, you also step into the role of Joanna Locke, a young investigator who's learning the ropes. It's a cool dynamic because you get to see Poirot's genius from a different perspective while also experiencing the investigation in a more hands-on way. Joanna's character brings a fresh angle to the classic Hood unit. The train itself is a highlight. The way it's designed really pulls you into the 1930s vibe, glossy wood paneling, cozy cabins, and all the little details that make the Orient Express feel like a character of its own. The passengers each have their own unique look and personality, so it's fun to dig into their stories and figure out who's hiding something.
I have taken the liberty of ordering you your look.
When it comes to gameplay, it's a mix of exploring, solving puzzles, and interrogating suspects. Poirot's mind maps let you piece together clues, and the puzzles are just the right level of challenge, not so hard that you'll be stuck for hours, but still satisfying when you figure them out. The interrogations are a highlight, especially when you catch someone in a lie or notice something they're not saying. The story sticks to the spirit of the original, but throws in a few curveballs to keep it fresh. It adds some action and drama that weren't in the book, which helps keep the pace moving. Some purists might feel like the changes aren't necessary, but they do add a bit of excitement for players who already know the ending. All in all, Murder on the Orient Express is a fun and modern take on a classic mystery. It's familiar enough to please fans of the book, but adds enough new elements to feel fresh. If you're into detective games or just love a good mystery, this is worth a try, whether it's your first time on the train or your fifth.
Have you told me the entire truth, Captain Arbuthnot?
Of course. I want you to find my ticket.
Beyond Two Souls.
So tired.
Beyond Two Souls is one of those games that people love to hate on, but honestly, I thought it was actually super interesting. It's not your usual action game, it's more like this emotional, mysterious journey through someone's life, with a little bit of supernatural weirdness thrown in, and if you're into heavy story-driven stuff like Detroit or Life is Strange, this one's totally worth checking out. You play as Jodie Holmes, a girl who's had this ghost-like thing attached to her since she was a kid. It's not really a ghost, it's called Aiden, and it follows her everywhere. Sometimes it protects her, sometimes it freaks out, sometimes it causes chaos, but it's always there and Jodie has to live with it. That's the whole game, really. Her life, from childhood to adulthood, all tied up with a strange connection.
Stop it, Aiden. They don't give a shit if we break everything in this goddamn room.
The way the game's told is kind of wild. The timeline jumps all over the place. One moment you're a little kid in a lab, the next you're homeless on the street, then suddenly you're on a military mission in some war zone. And yeah, that threw a lot of people off, but I kind of liked it. It made the whole story feel like a puzzle, like you're slowly figuring out who Jodie really is and what her deal is. Now the gameplay is pretty chill. You mostly walk around, interact with stuff, and make choices in conversations. There are a few action scenes where you have to dodge or fight using slow motion button prompts, and when you control Aiden, you can float around, pass through walls, move objects, or even possess people. It's not fast-paced or anything, but it keeps things interesting, especially with how different each chapter feels. And yeah, I get why some people didn't like it. It's not super deep in terms of gameplay, and the story gets a little messy near the end. Some folks thought it was too serious, too dramatic, or just kind of all over the place. But for me, that's what made it different. It's mysterious, emotional, and full of moments where you're just sitting there thinking, what the hell is going on, and where is this going? In a good way. Tales from the Borderlands. Tales from the Borderlands is honestly one of the best things Telltale ever made. And yeah, I'm saying that even with Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us on the table. Like, this game, it's got heart, it's got laughs, it's got moments that'll low-key catch you off guard emotionally. And yeah, it's set in the Borderlands universe, but you don't even need to be a big fan of the main games to love this one. It stands on its own. You play as two main characters, Ryse, this wannabe corporate dude who works for the mega company Hyperion, and Fiona, a street-smart con artist from the planet Pandora. They're both telling their own version of the same story, and neither of them is 100% honest, which leads to some hilarious, wait, that didn't happen kind of moments. That setup alone keeps things fresh the whole way through.
You are only going to get yourselves killed. Or worse.
The tone is straight up fun. It's goofy and fast and super well written. The humor actually lands, like laugh out loud funny at times, but it never feels like it's trying too hard. It's got that Borderlands vibe, loud, sarcastic, kind of unhinged, but this time with a way more focused story and actual character growth. And yeah, it's a Telltale game, so it's all about choices, dialogue, and those big oh no moments where you have to decide something fast and live with it. But compared to other Telltale stuff, this one's way more stylish.
This scam was our biggest yet.
What really hits though is how much you end up caring. Like, yeah, it's funny and chaotic and full of dumb jokes, but underneath all that, there's a real story about friendship, trust, betrayal, and growing up in a world that's pretty much garbage. By the time it ends, you're like, dang, I wasn't ready for the feels. Tales from the Borderlands didn't get enough attention when it dropped, but it's honestly top-tier storytelling, not just for Borderlands fans, but for anybody who loves good characters and a wild, fun ride. It's one of those games that people always end up loving after they try it.
Why all of a sudden?
Oxenfree.
Whore Island. Sounds a little different than what we're on.
Why would you think I said
Oxenfree is one of those quiet little games that sneaks up on you. Like, you go in thinking it's just a chill indie game about teens on an island, but then it turns into something way creepier, way weirder, and honestly kinda unforgettable. You play as Alex, this teenager heading to a small island with her friends for what's supposed to be a laid-back night of goofing off, talking trash, and maybe breaking some rules, but of course, stuff goes sideways fast. You mess with a weird radio signal, open some kind of creepy dimensional rift, and suddenly the whole island feels off. Like, the air's too quiet, time starts skipping, and dead things don't stay gone. It's not a jump scare kind of horror, it's more that slow, creepy, and kind of strange that messes with your head. The gameplay is super simple. You walk around, explore, and talk, a lot of talking, but it's really well written. The way characters interrupt each other or change tone mid-sentence or go quiet during heavy moments, it feels real, natural, and the choices you make in conversations actually shape how your friends feel about you and how the story plays out. Like, not in a huge dramatic way every second, but slowly, over time, little things build up and change how it ends.
Yeah, fun. An excuse to hit run.
Hey, I'm the truthiest truth. Whoever.
All right, let's just get on with it.
Okay,
So?
The best part though? The vibe. This game is all about atmosphere. The art is simple but beautiful. Soft colors, foggy trees, creepy abandoned buildings. The music's all glitchy and eerie and kinda lo-fi. And that radio mechanic, it's not just a gimmick. You tune through weird frequencies and sometimes you'll catch ghost voices, static messages, or music from somewhere else. It's unsettling in the coolest way.
Yeah, night's not exactly what I expected.
Oxenfree isn't long, you can beat it in 1 or 2 sittings, but it sticks with you. It's simple, it's strange, it's emotional, and it nails that feeling of being a teenager where everything feels like the end of the world and then suddenly it kinda is. You like story games with weird supernatural stuff, cool vibes, and characters that actually feel human? This one's worth your time. Just grab some headphones, turn off the lights, and let it pull you in.
Stations that don't exist. Oh my god.
As Dusk Falls.
You can stick your gag order and your pen right up your ass.
As Dusk Falls might look weird at first, like real weird. The characters don't move smooth like a regular game. It's kind of like a slideshow, like 2 frames per second. You'll probably be like, yo, is my game broken? But hear me out. Once you get into it, you stop caring about the way it looks because the story totally pulls you in. This game is like playing a TV drama. It's got a strong story with messed up choices, family drama, crime stuff, and a bunch of emotional moments. It starts with a simple thing, 2 families crashing into each other after a robbery goes wrong. One family's just on a road trip, the other is desperate and makes a bad move, and then boom, hostage situation, secrets come out, stuff goes crazy real fast. You don't just play one person either, you swap between different characters, adults, teens, even kids. Sometimes you're trying to stay alive, sometimes you're trying to protect someone, sometimes you're just trying not to say the wrong thing, and the choices you make really matter. Like, people can live or die depending on what you do. Yeah, there's no running around or shooting or puzzles, it's just you picking what to say, what to do, and watching the story play out. But it works, and really interesting just after you get that jarring slideshow art style. So yeah, the animation's kinda janky and takes a minute to get used to, but if you like games like Life is Strange, Telltale's Walking Dead, or Heavy Rain, this one's absolutely worth your time. The story's strong, the choices matter, and by the end, you'll be thinking about everything you did. Give it a shot, just get past the weird look, and it'll grab you.
Improvising. I'm not just gonna abandon you.
Family means sacrifice.
Vampyr. Vampyr is a game that definitely doesn't get enough credit, mostly because it's not a huge one, but it's got a lot going on if you pay attention. It came out in 2018 and was made by Dontnod, the same studio that did Life is Strange, so you can expect strong storytelling. The game is set in London right after World War I during the 1918 Spanish flu outbreak. The city feels sick and worn down. Streets are foggy, people are struggling to survive, and there's this constant feeling of tension and sadness. You play as Dr. Jonathan Reed, who's a proper doctor trying to help people, but then something happens and he becomes a vampire. So suddenly, you're balancing being a healer with being a predator, and that's what really makes the game stand out. Every choice you make has weight. If you feed on someone, that person dies, and it affects the entire district. Shops can close, rumors spread, and certain quests can vanish. You could spend time trying to cure people with medicine, or you could feed to get stronger quickly, but it comes at a real cost. The game forces you to think about morality in a way most games don't. You're not just picking dialogue options, you're deciding who lives and who dies, and that affects your character story and the city itself. Combat is simple at first, but it has depth. You use swords, daggers, and fists, plus vampire powers, like dashing, grappling, or teleporting behind enemies. Timing matters, dodging is key, and the powers let you mix up attacks in a way that keeps fights interesting without being overwhelming. It's not about grinding or crazy skill combos, it's about thinking strategically and using your abilities wisely. The game also has a very grounded story. Characters feel real, even small side characters. They have backstories, problems, and personalities, and sometimes their side quests are really small moments that stick with you emotionally. London itself is detailed without being overstuffed. It's atmospheric, but still playable. You can walk around, talk to people, and get little glimpses of life in a city recovering from war and disease. What makes Vampyr underrated is that it's not flashy. It doesn't have huge explosions, massive open worlds, or endless collectibles. It's a slow, thoughtful experience that relies on storytelling, world building, and choices. It's a game where your actions feel meaningful, and you can feel the consequences of every decision. It's also kind of sad in a human way. You feel conflicted because you want to save people, but you also have to survive, and that tension never really goes away. If you like story-driven games where your decisions actually matter, or games with a dark but realistic vibe, Vampyr is definitely worth checking out. It's not perfect. The combat can feel a little stiff, and some quests are repetitive, but the world, the story, and the moral choices make it stick in your mind long after you've stopped playing.
Submit to your hunger, and you, my child, bear mortal enemies.
Lost Judgment. Lost Judgment is such a strange mix, in a way that actually works. You play as Yagami, the lawyer turned private detective guy, and the game opens with him diving into this high school related case. It's mostly bullying, fights, and some shady adults involved. The story isn't trying to crush your soul, it's more like following the detective through a bunch of weird, frustrating, sometimes ridiculous situations, and Yagami's reactions make it feel alive. The city is actually one of the best parts. Kamurocho and Ijincho feel like living places. People talk to each other, events happen in the streets, and if you wander, you'll see small interactions that feel organic. You could be tailing a suspect and notice a street performer, some kids arguing, or a guy trying to sell knockoff merchandise. It's small stuff, but it makes the city feel like it's breathing, not just a backdrop for missions. Combat is where Lost Judgment shines. Yagami has few fighting styles. One's smooth and technical, the other is rough and tumble brawling. You grab everything in the environment: pipes, signs, bottles, trash cans, and use it on enemies. Some fights are just one-on-one and fun because you can experiment with combos, but some are gang fights with like 10 people on the screen and it gets chaotic. I've had moments where I'm just dodging a crowd, swinging wildly, and somehow it works. The variety keeps it from getting repetitive, and switching styles mid-fight feels satisfying. Investigation sections are solid. You follow suspects, look through windows, check phones, talk to NPCs, read clues, and sometimes you have to connect dots in ways that feel clever. It's not brain melting, but it's not just holding your hand either. And honestly, those detective sections balance out the combat perfectly. After a long fight, you can slow down, tail someone, listen in on conversations, and it feels like proper detective work. The side content is ridiculous, but in a fun way. Drone racing, mini games, finding lost kids, optional fights, and weird little city events. None of it is forced. You can skip most of it, but it's there if you want to get distracted. I've spent hours just wandering the city, doing side missions, and laughing at the little absurdities the game throws at you. Like NPCs getting into arguments, or one kid asking you for help with some petty problem. The story itself is fine. Engaging, not too dark, not trying to be tragic life lesson heavy. Yagami interacts with high schoolers, adults, criminals, and the cases are messy, sometimes frustrating, sometimes funny. It keeps moving at a good pace. The game knows when to be serious and when to let you go off and do chaotic stuff in the city. RoboCop Rogue City. Rogue City is one of those games where you immediately feel the vibe of being a walking, talking law machine, and it kind of nails that cybernetic cop energy. You're Alex Murphy, aka RoboCop, and the game throws you into Detroit, which is a city falling apart. Gangs, corruption, crime everywhere, neon lights, rainy streets, and you're supposed to clean it up. The story isn't super complicated, but it does a solid job of giving you motivation without wasting time. You're not just wandering around randomly. You're a cop on the clock, roadblock, balancing human morality and robotic law enforcement, and the city responds to what you do. What's cool about this game is how it handles the RoboCop powers. You've got your classic targeting system, slow motion aiming, scanning for enemies, and punching or shooting people with authority. But it's not over-the-top arcadey, it feels grounded in the RoboCop world. Shooting is satisfying, the punches hit hard, and the way the game blends ranged and melee combat makes fights feel weighty. There's a lot of enemy variety too. Street gangs, private security, bigger baddies, so you're constantly switching tactics. The city itself is kind of a highlight. It's dense, neon lit, and full of little details that make it feel like a real place you're patrolling. People argue on the streets, stores get robbed, and random events happen while you're on your missions. Sometimes I just wandered a block and noticed a mini crime going down, jumped in, and felt like a true RoboCop. The verticality in alleyways make combat interesting too, like you can kick a thug off a ledge or punch someone into a stack of crates. It's messy, fun, and grounded in physics in a way that actually works. The story is solid, but not anything mind-blowing. It's mostly about crime in Detroit, a corporate conspiracy, and how far RoboCop can push the law while still trying to hold on to his humanity. There are moments where it hits that emotional RoboCop tone, Murphy remembering his human side, struggling with the rules, but it's not heavy-handed. It's enough to give the missions a little weight without slowing down the action. Side stuff is mostly optional, but it's fun. Patrolling the city, taking down small-time crimes, scanning environments, interrogating NPCs, it all adds layers to the world. And honestly, a lot of the joy comes from just experimenting with RoboCop's moves, kicking, shooting, or slowing down time to pick off a group of enemies strategically. There's a satisfying rhythm once you get into it. It's kind of underrated because it's not flashy like some AAA shooters, and a lot of people probably dismissed it for looking like a licensed game, but the world is solid, combat is weighty, missions are fun, and it nails the RoboCop vibe in a way that makes you feel like you are that cyborg cop walking through a city that's as chaotic and messy as he is. Some missions drag a little, some dialogue is cheesy, but overall, it's a really fun mix of detective-ish crime work and satisfying combat. So, Eric's Home, The Stolen Dream, is a fairly recent game, came out in July 2025, and it's basically an isometric stealth adventure game. It's made by a small team of 16 people called River End Games, and you can tell they put a ton of effort into it. The game takes place in a fictional Scandinavian city, Eric's Home, which feels like a mix of early 20th century Gothenburg and Stockholm. Streets, buildings, and the atmosphere all feel really deliberate and well thought out. You play as Hannah, an orphan who survives this plague called heartpox, and her brother Herman steals a cure to save her life. That kicks off the story, which quickly turns into a mix of conspiracy, shady politicians, rich business people, and some secret society stuff. You don't just play Hannah, you also get Alva, who can climb drain pipes, and Sebastian, who can swim, and switching between them is actually a big part of how you tackle missions. It's clever because each character's skill feels useful, and the game encourages you to experiment with the three of them instead of doing everything the same way. The gameplay itself is classic stealth adventure. You sneak around, avoid being spotted, plan paths, and figure out how to complete objectives. The isometric perspective makes it easy to see everything and plan accordingly. If you get spotted, you restart a little before the incident, which is tense at first but ends up feeling fair. There are usually multiple ways to approach each mission, which keeps it from feeling repetitive. Eric's Home, the city, is probably the best part in terms of immersion. It's detailed without being crowded, you can see random events happen, and the streets feel alive. The visuals are Unreal Engine 5 level good, lighting and animations are solid, and the attention to detail makes the environment interesting even when you're just moving from one objective to the next. The story is decent, not overly emotional, not groundbreaking, just solid enough to make you care about what's happening. Political corruption, betrayals, and some moral questions pop up here and there, and it keeps you invested without dragging things down. The voice acting is good, soundtrack fits the mood, and the small details like how NPCs act or interact add a lot to the vibe. Overall, it's a niche game. Stealth fans, puzzle fans, or people who like small, detailed indie games will probably get the most out of it. It's not perfect. Some parts feel repetitive, some missions can be fiddly, but the mix of stealth, character switching, and city exploration makes it interesting in a way that a lot of isometric stealth games don't.